Welcome to video number 2. Sorry about that. Of part 2 of the first 2 sections of Unit 6. So if you read the middle part here after our last problem, it says, in the context, we were approximating the total number of people that entered the park from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we need to pay attention to the context of the problem that we're dealing with, because when we find definite integrals, we can either be finding the total amount, or we can find the net amount of whatever quantity whose rate we have. And so if in the little box here you get a nice synopsis, if you're only adding or if you're only subtracting areas, right? If your areas are all, if you imagine the function graph, and if the areas were all above the x-axis, they're all positive, or if the areas are all below and they're all negative, then we can say this is the total amount of that quantity. But if we're putting together positive and negative, then we're really getting kind of like the net amount, so the leftover amount. And so we have to say that's really the net change of whatever it is we're talking about. And so as we look at these two examples, I just want to point out that the context is important. So always read and think about what is it that they're talking about. And then the second part is use that idea to interpret what the statement should be. So in example 2, the amount of money in a bank account is changing at a rate of A prime of t, where A is measured in dollars per day and t is a number of days since January 1st. Interpret the following in context. So we have a statement. Can we interpret it? Well, we know A prime of t, is measured in dollars per day. I think this is a typo here. This should be A prime. The changing rate A prime, where A prime is measured in dollars per day. Yeah, this should be dollars per day. And then dt, t is the number of days, so then this is days. And if we cancel out, well, then we get dollars. So this amount is dollars. But is it a net amount or is it a total amount? Well, what's going on? In the situation, we're talking about money that's changing. So that means there is positive, negative, right? It's changing. It's not staying. You're not just adding. It's not talking about the income. It's not talking about just the debts, the debits. It's talking about it's changing. So the amount of money in the bank account is changing at that rate. So therefore, what we just found, the net change in the amount of money in a bank account. And here you have a choice. You could say from January 1st to January 10th. I guess you could think of it that way. You can also say maybe in the first 10 days of January is, let me put the dollar sign first, negative $853. Or I guess you would put the negative first. Would you put the negative first? No, I don't even know. Is it like that? No, that looks funny. I think it would be dollars negative 853. Or you can just say negative $853 and put the word dollars. But the idea here is because the money, the account is measuring money coming in, measuring money going out, like it's positive, it's negative. So the net change in the amount of money in the account in the first 10 days of January is negative $853. Meaning there could have been money coming in, there had to be money going out, but at the end of the 10 days, I have negative $853. That's the net change. Like that was the result of all the changes that happened. However, when I look at example 3, it says the rate in money per day that Mr. Passwater spends can be modeled by the function s of t, where t is the number of days since January 1st. Can you interpret the definite integral statement? Well, here, again, S of t measured in dollars per day, dt measured in days, so the days are going to cancel. I'm left with dollars. So this is a dollars situation. But what are we finding? Well, this function is only measuring how much money he's spending, right? It's not measuring how much money he's earning and spending. Like, it's just amount spent. So we can say the total amount spent, and you can say by Mr. Passwater, during the first 10 days of January is 2,457. So this function is only calculating how much money he's spending at any given time, on any given day in that month, right? And from 0 to 10 in that window of the first 10 days of January. So two examples of how, depending on the context of the situation, we could, when we find the definite integral, we could be finding a net change amount, or we could be finding a total amount, depending on the behavior of the function.